Hi, this is Janet Swanson. I am here today to encourage you, inspire you, and cheer you on, and to let you know you deserve to be happy, to be healed, and to live your life in freedom. Free from the pain of your past, free from fear, free from all those voices that tell you, I can't. So, let's break the silence and expose the darkness that has held you in confinement way too long. Your life matters. Your story matters. Your voice matters. I believe in you. And most of all, God believes in you. Welcome to One Voice Makes a Difference podcast. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to One Voice Makes a Difference podcast. We're so excited that you came back, and we have Brianne with us. This is part 3 of Back to Life, and what a powerful story. You heard last week and the week before of her story and how the Lord just brought her through so much. And she was abused, started having abuse at 4 years old, and went in and out of foster care into group homes, been raped. It's like you were an open target for the enemy.
Yes.
And it's just like everywhere you went, there was no boundaries. So I've found this to be true, that people that have been abused and they have not learned that, hey, that's unhealthy, and they don't create those boundaries, it seems to be an open target for people, and you find yourself in one trial after another. And when I hear your story, it's exactly what happened. It's like you went, from a bad situation to a worse situation. It was like a yo-yo going back and forth, back and forth. So I know that left you with a lot of rejection issues, abandonment issues. What else?
Ma'am. Oh gosh,
So many issues.
Depression, suicidal thoughts, just feeling unworthy of love and acceptance, and just being lost in the world. I was lost.
Yeah. But you gave us your testimony last week of how you were saved and what the Lord how He had brought your heart back to Him, and now you found yourself around 18 years old, just really convinced, okay, I've got to turn things around.
Yes, ma'am.
And you told us the story of how you met your husband, and we want to welcome Alexis. How are you?
How you doing? Doing good.
We're so glad you're here. We're going to hear a little bit from Brianne and a little bit from her husband, and about their struggles and their victories in their marriage, and the wonderful things that God has done to bring healing to them. And so I'm just excited to have Alexis here. And Brianne, you were telling me you went in the Air Force, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And that's how you guys got together, because you started stalking him.
Yes.
And you're like, I'm going to marry this guy.
Yes.
Awesome.
And I did.
I bet he had no idea, though, that even the both of you just carrying baggage into the marriage. And I want to start off with just the open target and how you guys met, but yet when you were raped again right before you got married. Can you tell us a little bit about that story?
Well, there's 2 times. Going into the Air Force, I was taken advantage of by a recruiter that preyed on me, especially my situation. And then going into the Air Force, almost immediately, once I was to my first duty station, I had to have surgery, and I was supposed to be escorted with a female supervisor. Instead, they sent a male airman back to my dorm with me, heavily drugged and medicated, and it was not a good situation. I ended up being overdosed. I ended up being back in the hospital with ripped stitches.
So he raped you that night?
Yes, ma'am. It was very hard. And just to see...
I can't imagine.
Yeah, it was a very, very tough situation. And then almost immediately, it felt like my military career was over because I could not stuff everything. It was like I had stuffed everything from my childhood for so long that once it was now into my adulthood and into my career life, I couldn't handle it. I would see this male coworker in the halls, and I would have these anxiety attacks and panic attacks.
Of course.
So, of course, you start talking to someone and saying what really happened. And instead of me being protected like I needed to be protected, I was taken out of the office, set above with the commander just to answer her phones. And I was lonely. And I was back into this cycle of just being abandoned and rejected. And that's when the suicidal thoughts like really started getting to me. It was no longer thoughts. It was, I knew what tree I was going to drive my car into. I knew it was done. If I had a weapon in the home, I knew it. Yeah.
How did you get through that?
It was really hard. It was really hard. I remember crying to my husband one day and just, you know, we weren't even really healthy at the time. It was really a tough situation in the beginning. And I remember crying to him because I was so scared of what I was going to do. I said, you know, put me in a mental hospital. It was really that bad. But I was afraid that people from my past were going to come and find me and do more things to me. And I remember him just holding me while I'm crying and him saying, you're home and you're safe.
You're home and you're safe.
You're home and you're safe.
Yeah.
And I think that was the first time I'm like, this man is different. That, you know, there was... Yeah.
So how did you propose to her? I mean,
I
want to hear the story.
It was through a Easter egg.
Yeah.
An Easter egg.
An orange Easter
orange
egg.
Easter egg. That's orange is her favorite color.
Okay.
So it was an Easter egg. I was in Alabama, and I was in Alabama, and when she went out to you went to go get some errand or something breakfast, yeah. You went to go get breakfast, and I had the ring already on my person, but I had no idea really how I was going to propose to her. I didn't want to be too cheesy, and I was out of town, so I didn't have a lot of money either, so I was like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
So I just figured, I was like, okay, I got to hide it somewhere. Where can I hide it? And I'm just looking around the room, and I was like, oh, this little Easter egg, because she bought an Easter egg breakfast and a basket. And I put it in the egg, and you know, later in the day when she came back after eating food, you were just picking through it because I think you were just trying to get some sweets or something like that.
No, you had said to me, is this for me? And I was like, yes, this is for you. And you're like, even this one? I was like,
oh,
yes.
Yeah, I did. Then that's when you opened it.
See, the girls never forget.
Yeah.
The girls never forget.
I just remember it was an Easter egg. It was orange.
Yeah.
I put it in there.
And then we got married 4 hours later.
4 hours later?
4 hours later.
Wow.
Because we were in the military and we were doing, well, she was in the military, and military lifestyle, it's either
very fast.
You're going to be long distance or you're just going to get married really quickly.
Yeah.
And we were doing the long distance thing for a little bit. We weren't sick and tired of it. So I was like, no, let's just courthouse it up.
Yeah.
So you're going into this marriage kind of quickly then.
Oh,
yeah, very
quickly.
With a lot of baggage.
I did not even tell my parents.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
nobody knew.
They were mad.
Yeah.
But they were happy at the same time. It was like, we're angry you didn't tell us, but
they love me, thank God.
Yeah.
So
that's good.
Yeah.
And so when you guys got married, about what time was the rape and all of that happened? And
a few days after.
That's what I thought.
Because my husband had to go home to New York, and then he had to tell his family, but it was actually the next day after we got married, I went to Walmart and we're just walking around and I'm like, there's something really wrong with me. And then we ended up in the hospital and it was like, you need surgery now. So they're like, we don't have a surgeon. We'll have to schedule you tomorrow. But he had to head home that night. So I didn't have my support person with me.
I hated that.
And that's whenever it's like, okay, I need somebody to be there with me. And instead, it was a male coworker who, it was not a good situation.
And she was in no shape to be watched by someone like that. Or even if it was a female, it was the state she was in mentally. Yeah. She wasn't even there. The drugs they had her on. And,
they had me on tough Percocets and like tramadol, like really some big stuff. But since I've actually had to list these medications as an allergy because it took me to someplace that was not, I was not here.
You took it for something. You had Percocets given to you like a while ago for something random, but
and it was like
no, not again. We're we're done.
You're like, no way.
Yeah.
It's
a whole different person.
How did that make you feel going into the marriage? Did you expect that?
No, I was angry, but I mean, I wasn't angry at her. There was nothing. It was already done. There was nothing I could do. But getting married to her and knowing all this stuff that's happened and then has happened before in the past, I was kind of ready for it. Like, I was just like, it's no matter what, I'm going to love you regardless of whatever kind of history you had, whether it was you doing stuff or stuff happening to you. Nothing really changes how I feel about you, because regardless of what, I'm going to just love you through it, because love is going to cover all of that for her. But
and that's what people that been abused, that's what they need.
Yeah.
Because they're convinced that you're going to leave.
Yes.
They're convinced that they're going to mess up somewhere, like they always have, because somehow I feel like in the heart of a person, the victim, they feel like, gosh, this is my fault. I've done something to make it happen, and if something goes wrong in my life, it's probably my fault. So they take the blame for stuff that's not even their fault, even in their adult life. And, you know, trying to get through that and learning that, hey, when things happen, it doesn't mean that you've done something to make that happen.
Yeah.
It's just part of life. So you guys are coming into this marriage really quickly.
Yep.
Were you walking with the Lord then?
I was walking with the Lord, but I had my own demons I was struggling. I had a strong porn addiction, and I made her aware of that as well. And I think the way I viewed her, she viewed me the same way. Like, okay, regardless of whatever you're dealing with as well, I'm still gonna love you.
Wow.
And I think emotionally we were ready, but mentally we just didn't know what we were getting ourselves into. I had no idea how deep it went, the layers of trauma, how many things connect to this, to these traumas that she had, and it was a big learning curve.
So how did you get through your porn addiction?
It was through counselors. The first thing I had to do was confess everything. I reached a point where we were going through some trouble in our marriage.
Marital counseling.
We had marital counseling, and I knew in the back of my head nothing really would get fixed if I don't open up this secret, just reveal everything.
Yeah.
So once I revealed everything, then the counselor himself, we had two of them. It was a married couple. The husband, he took me under his wing and he showed me all these resources. I was able to talk to him. He put me in like a men's group that we all talked about various addictions, and I learned a lot about addictions and because of this. And knowing all these things, it made me realize that it wasn't really as much as it was a sin problem, but it ran so deep. What's the word I'm trying to say?
A heart problem?
It was the devil hardwired my brain to the point where I needed this stuff, and I was tricked into thinking I needed this. It was just a deceptive drug, but I always felt like this was me. This was a problem with me. There's something wrong with me. And then when he showed me all these resources and DVDs and everything, I learned that, oh, okay, I'm still me on the inside, wanting to do better, and this is normal, this struggle to go through, but the devil in my mind is working against me, and I have to untangle all of that. I saw all that work, and that was eye-opening for me, because it's no longer shame on me. Right. Now I see where the devil trapped me in. Now I can come out of that maze. So he gave me a guide. It was nice.
Gosh, I'm so glad you're talking about that, because there's so many men in marriages right now that are still, they kept thinking that, oh, as soon as I get married, I can have sex whenever I want to now, and it's gonna go away, but it doesn't. It's like it torments you. As
a youth growing up in the Lord, same thing. We as boys, we're all looking forward to the honeymoon. Yeah. The girls are looking for the marriage. We're looking forward to the honeymoon.
That's right.
And they tell us, oh, once you get married, you can have sex all you want, and then that's a lie as well. But it's eye opening, because you realize, like, wow, it's not that easy. If you're doing it before, you're still gonna do it then, because life isn't as what you picture it or as you think. So
that's all right.
I feel like there's some education that needs to happen even towards the younger boys, because once you get married, it's not gonna get fixed. You need to get rid of this now before you get married. Don't think marriage is gonna solve it, because it won't.
I love what you used to tell me too about Ragamuffin, that once you realized
the movie,
about
that's one of them.
God's grace and that he loved you, that it was finally like he was able to accept God's grace. Yeah. And that was like,
so what's Ragamuffin?
It's a movie.
Ragamuffin is a movie. It's about I forgot the name. his name, Richard Mullins, Awesome God. And his struggle was with alcoholism, and he had a upbringing with his dad, and it was just really rough, and he had a whole bunch of trouble with it. But he was a worship leader. He sang all these songs. He had hit records.
Wow.
But his problem was drinking, and through the movie you see him overcome all that. And there was just this one scene in the movie where he was listening to this tape. He was like he was almost backsliding and everything, where he was just like cold with the Lord. He was just traveling and touring, and his buddy in the car gave him a tape like, hey, let's just listen to the sermon. He's like, I don't want to listen to it. He's like, oh, let's just do it anyway, fine. So they played it, and it broke him down to tears what the man was saying. It's like he knew about God, but he learned about this other side of God, this grace, this mercy, what he didn't have as a father, in a father. So when he learned that side, that's when his addiction started becoming a little easy to break. But it's that movie, it was life-changing for
Pivotal.
me.
Yeah.
It was pivotal to see that. I don't think I would be on this role if I haven't seen that movie. Because I heard that same tape. It's the same tape he heard, they played it in the movie, and I had the same reaction.
Wow. Yeah. That's crazy. And a lot of people, when they get married, they come into a marriage thinking that, okay, well, God's going to make this all good.
Yeah.
And we're coming in with him. And he does, but there's things that we have to do.
Yeah.
And the first thing is you have to get rid of all those secrets.
Yeah.
And the second thing is you have to realize, hey, this has been a struggle for me, and God, I need your help on this.
Yeah.
I don't want to be that person. And then you have to picture, the person that you want to be. So you're coming into this marriage, and Brianne has a lot of issues of rejection and abandonment and fear and depression and suicidal thoughts.
Yeah.
And you're coming into this marriage with, wow, I have a porn addiction. And now God has just taken you both, and you're on this journey of healing. You've been set free of porn.
Yes.
Amen.
3 years now.
Yeah.
That was 2017 when all that happened.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And how God can do a miracle in that. Also, I want you to tell us the story of forgiveness that you had to really, the Lord, you told me Brianne started at one point, but you started way behind her.
Yeah. So normally when two people get married, that's the happiest day of their life.
Yeah.
But I started as one of the worst days of my life. So because of that, the track I was on was Sabotage. So we're getting married, and I was just completely angry at the way it happened. I saw her as wife material, but because of how sped up it was, I wasn't ready, like, emotionally, and I was like, I want to get married, but not right now. So there was a lot of bitterness and anger I was having with that. So I was on this road to self-sabotage the marriage. Okay, fine, we'll get married. But then, I'm going to do whatever I want. I'm going to be selfish. And if she doesn't like it, oh, well, that's who she married. And I just had this really young-minded attitude about the whole thing.
Like, I can get out if I want.
Yeah, I can get out if I want to.
He was thinking about being homeless. He was talking to another female.
Yeah. So there was like, I had a emotional affair as well. Well, I was just talking to my ex, my one before her. I was just trying to do whatever I want with her and talk to her. And that was just part of the whole sabotage plan. Because even with her, I didn't really care what happened with her. It was just, I just wanted out. And but that was the first year, and it was just really hard. So 2017, that was a pivotal point, because then that's when the confession of the emotional affair I had with the girl, and then the porn addiction. I was like, I'm just going to rebuild everything, because at that point, I was serious. I knew I loved her, and I knew I wanted to be with my wife, but I can't be on this road of recovery, road of healing, with all these skeletons in my closet, because she thinks I've been free of porn. What, 5 years at that point? Yeah. 5 years, I think, or whatever. I can't do math. And then she thinks I stopped talking to the girl at an earlier point, and that was a lie too. So it was secrets and lies all over the place. So I exposed all that out, and through the counselor as well, he made me see, like, my wife in a different way. And I saw that everything she was going through, and I saw everything that I was putting her through that I've never really noticed before. I have strong, selfish desires and stuff like that that plagued me, and I've never looked at things that way before. No one's ever really educated me, like, Yeah, when you do this, that's selfish. When you do that, that's selfish. And you're not putting her needs above your own. You're not putting her interest above your own. And that's what you need to do. You need to die to your wife. You need to do, put your body on the line. And all that was just foreign to me. Like, no,
Right.
I didn't want to do any of that because it's that selfishness. I was always looking out for me, but through that counseling and talking to other men, it helped me out a lot.
That's awesome. So you had some friends and had some counselors that helped you walk that through. Also, Brienne, you were a surrogate mother.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell us that journey, because I know that was that a strain on your marriage also?
Oh, yes.
So why did you become a surrogate mother?
Okay, well, in the beginning of our marriage, we, we're going through a really hard time in our marriage, so I just decided I'm going to do something that I can do. So I became an egg donor very quickly. It provided travel. There was really some cool perks that went along with it. But once I got done with that egg donation journey, I was on such like the spiritual high that I haven't felt since I was like first on fire for the Lord. So I was just so on fire, and this woman had read my blog and reached out to me, and she's like, I would like you to have a baby for me. And for free.
You gotta drop that part.
For free. Yeah, for free. And
Altruistic.
I said no, because I was like, well, I could do it for $25,000. Now, some women are making $100,000 for high-end surrogacy, but typically it's around $35,000. So I was like, okay, I'll give you a deal, $25,000. She's like, that's too much for me. No, thank you. I'm talking to him. He's like, no. Then I'm like, okay, we could do it for $12,000. And she's like, no, that's too much for me. And then I had that last egg donation, and I was so on fire. I'm like, I just changed someone's life. And it was the first time where I felt like proud of myself for doing something. And then I'm like, okay, I'll do it for free. Now, a little caveat to know that we had signed a contract and that we were not going to have sex. So, because of the egg donation medication we were on for the egg donations and then the surrogacy. So if we got pregnant, we would have to pay $100,000 like with his sperm. So we needed to make sure my body was just for these people and their embryos.
For free.
Wow. So
Insider
just
information.
imagine, newlyweds, not able to have sex, and my husband has a pornography addiction. It was like a recipe.
It's a big mess.
For disaster. So I went through that surrogacy, and there was a lot of manipulation and hurt, and just coming from the intended mother of the baby, and it was a really hard time. I had thought they were Christian, and it was a learning process, but I'm not kidding you, Janet. I felt like I had to do that surrogacy, even though it was for free, and I know he was not on board with it. But I felt like that was the way to earn God's forgiveness for having an abortion.
Wow.
So I needed to have this baby. And I never told the intended mother that, I had an abortion. I never want that to be the baby's story. But it's definitely a part of it, that I had that baby for a reason. And I believe it's no coincidence that he was on the front row with me every day in my belly, in the church, and singing worship over him and praying over him, and I believe he's going to be a mighty man for God. But it was definitely a journey where boundaries needed to be laid out, where growing up without any boundaries, there was definitely room for someone to take advantage of me like that. She preyed on me being a lonely person and not having family, so of course I'm like, oh, I need to do this for her. She doesn't have money, she's like me. And then we go to Atlanta and we see this big beautiful house, and she has the wedding of all baby showers. So it was a lot. The woman ended up wearing a pregnant belly, so even I didn't feel like I was getting credit for what I was doing, and I really had to check my motives in my heart. And God was really working overtime with me during that whole season of just, the biggest thing I learned during that season was that you never have to earn God's forgiveness. All you have to do is ask for it. And I wish it didn't. Yes, I wish it didn't take me 10 months, 9 months to learn that. But yes,
but it's your story and the journey you went through. The thing is with forgiveness is that you cancel the debt
Yeah.
that person has had.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
you know, when Jesus forgives you, it means that it's as if it never happened.
Yeah.
And the moment you say that, it's done.
Yes.
So I just know someone is listening out there,
Oh, yeah.
and their whole marriage has been nothing but fighting, offenses, but they made a covenant before God. They both love the Lord like you
Yes.
guys did, and they're
That's right.
trying everything they can to make it work. And I want you to know that your key to making your marriage work is forgiveness.
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
And to truly love people through their mess, because I'm going to tell you, we're all a mess when we
Oh,
come
yeah.
to the Lord. I mean, you don't have to be abused like we were to be a mess. You can just be
Yeah.
out in the world, and the world's going to mess you up, you know? And so we all need God's forgiveness. But at the same time, you know, how do you forgive the people that's done you wrong?
Yeah.
How do you forgive the people that has abused you? And the other day, I did a Facebook Live, and I was talking about forgiveness, and I just felt led that the Lord really wanted me to say something about forgiveness on
Yeah.
Facebook Live, and it was so simple. Like, it was not even very deep and profound. It was just very simple. You know, when Jesus
Yeah.
was on the cross, he said, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do."
Yeah.
And that was what impacted my life when I, you know, had to forgive my stepfather and my mom for abandoning me, and all the issues that I had, even going into my marriage and raising my children, you know. And I had to realize that, wow, Lord, you forgave me, and I have to forgive them, because they really didn't know
Yeah.
what they were doing to me. They didn't get it. And it was so much easier to release that debt. A few days later, I got a message on Facebook, and the lady said, "Listen, you've saved my life today."
Wow.
I was
Nice.
about to walk off from my husband.
Wow.
Yeah.
Literally, I was
That's
about to
amazing.
walk off, and
She needed
that
that word.
simple, profound truth
Yes.
Absolutely.
changed my life. And I was just in awe, going, wow.
Praise
Because forgiveness is just not one time.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to offend each other later on, you
Yeah.
know?
Oh, it's continuous.
It's continuous, and it's something that you have to really, really work on. But I'm glad that you learned that God's love
Yes.
and His forgiveness is not something you have to earn to get. It's just something that you receive.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you both this question, and you can answer first, Brianne, and then Alexis.
Yeah.
Where do you see your marriage now, and where do you see it in the future?
Well, I'll start going back to the surrogacy. Right afterwards, I sat down with him at the table, and I said, I never want to be on opposite spectrums anymore. When we make decisions, I want it to be 100 and 100.
Yeah.
It's going to be those type of decisions. So now I see us healthily communicating now, but in the future, I see us rocking on the front porch as old
I was
old
just gonna say
people.
that. You stole my answer.
Seeing
yeah.
our grandkids outside, and I see I believe that we have prayed, and we will continue to pray for our kids and our generations after us, that we will be a whole and healthy family, and just the Lord is really working through our marriage, and I'm thankful that God has shown up in my life and given me grace and mercy, and I could come back to life from the mess of my past. And I hope that that generational blessing will just carry on for 1,000 generations, and that's where I
Amen.
see
Praise
us
God.
That's
going
good.
together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. How about you, Alexis?
Same thing. It's I almost take it for granted that the illustration she gave about just being old and on the
Yeah,
porch
together.
together. That is a vision that I did not ever anticipate even having at the beginning of our marriage.
Wow.
Because I was going the other way. And if I was to go back in the future and say, hey, one day you're gonna see yourself dreaming of days where you guys are going to be old and looking back at your life like some old sappy country song. And I'm like, nah, I wouldn't believe that. But what a beautiful thing it is to just be able to dream with my wife about our future and not a future of me without her, and who knows what kind of world that would be in. So that is something I'm really thankful for. I can dream with my wife now.
Yeah.
Well, I think about the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, and peace, patience and kindness, goodness, faithfulness. What's the other?
Self-control.
Meekness and self-control.
Yeah.
So part of that, you think is the fruit of the Spirit. It's who we are as Christians, and that's how we should respond in relationships, but especially at home.
Oh, yeah.
In our marriage, because it seems like that we'll take our frustrations out on the people that we love the most.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And I can say for myself that I did that to my husband because that's what happened in my home. Everybody just took it out on the people that were right there. And I had to learn, the Bible says, Jesus is saying, hey, learn from me. Take my yoke upon you because it's easy.
It's light.
And it's light. But that first part, it says, learn from me. So if we learn from him, he gives us all the lessons that we need in life. And he is saying, hey, if you'll be patient, if you'll be kind to one another, practice humility, practice kindness and meekness and self-control, because when you have a porn addiction, it's really self-control stuff, you know?
It is.
And when you have issues of abandonment, it's just fear. Fear that someone's going to walk away and leave you, and that you self-sabotage yourself, know? And you have to change your thoughts about how God thinks about you, and then begin to think healthy thoughts about, my husband loves me. Did that ever happen to you where you just said, I just need to change the way I think about how he feels about me? When did you really receive his love and know that, hey, he's going to stay?
This year.
Wow.
This year, we're in the 7.5 year mark, and it was this year, this past April, right before our anniversary, where I'm like, he is finally, like, I knew that my husband loved me because he protected me through a situation that happened. An ex had reached out to me, exposed himself to me via text message, and I ran to my husband and let him know, and Alexis was the first one to report this man. He's in a highly regarded position. He's a pastor, head pastor in Florida, and I saw my husband protect me and write to this church, and just, it was the first time where I felt like someone stuck up to me but also believed me and guarded my heart and surrounded me with this protection. And I was like, wow, he does really love me, and I don't think my husband's going anywhere.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
No, I'm not going nowhere.
That's powerful. And I think that's what women crave, is for your husband to stand up for you, to protect you. And women crave that security. I just want to know that I'm secure inside of you, inside of our home, and that you're going to take care of me. And, I was talking to one of my children about this the other day. We were talking. He said, Mom, the Bible says that the man's to love the wife first. And you know why he said that?
Why?
Because Jesus loved us first.
I like that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's good.
And the Bible says that the men are supposed to love their wives as Christ loved the church, and he loved us first.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that means you do the first. You take the first step to forgiveness. You take the first step toward her. And once the woman knows that, there's nothing she won't do for you.
Absolutely.
Nothing. And I think a lot of women, the reason why they don't want to follow their husbands is because they don't really, truly feel loved. Like, will you protect me? Will you lay your life down for me? And this is such a beautiful love story of you guys. And I just want to thank you so much for sharing your story.
Absolutely.
I know that there's somebody out there that's listening that there have maybe marital problems and addictions and issues, abandonment. We all have issues, don't we? Rejection. I mean, it doesn't matter. We all come to the Lord in need, and we all need a Savior, no matter what our background was like.
Oh yeah.
And so I just really appreciate you telling your story.
Well, thank you.
And thank you.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to end on? Has the Lord laid anything on your heart to say?
Yeah, just for any spouses, whether you're a man or a woman, whenever this is something I had to learn when loving my wife, learning to love my wife as a abuse victim. Something I had to learn was that I have to love her and be patient with her more than I would someone that didn't go through that. So she would go through things, just the daily things in life, and because of her trauma, sometimes it'll be a little bit more exasperated than what I consider normal. And I would just think, and again, I had my issues with my wife at that time too. I would just think, she's crazy, she's irrational, and I had to learn through the counseling as well that no, it's because she had to go through all these things. This is why she's like that. And once I learned that, I was able to love her much more easily because now I know what I'm dealing with. And that's the thing, like no one really educates anybody about abuse victims and how to live with them, how it is to love with them. And I think it'd be a really great thing that you're doing this podcast because people get to see that, the victim doesn't just stop being the victim once they get married. Like, okay,
that's right.
You're still going through these things, and sometimes for some people it's for their life, and you have to the spouse has to learn has to learn how to love them in a special way. And so I just encourage any spouses going through that, just be patient, exercise love, exercise a lot of compassion, and know that your feelings also are valid as well. One mistake I kept falling into thinking was because I didn't go through anything even remotely close to what my wife went through, I always thought, well, she went through that stuff and it's hard, so how can I complain about anything? I didn't have that hard of a life. I didn't go through these things, so my feelings don't really matter. They're not really that valid.
Wow.
So if she's complaining about something, I just have to kind of just take it because who am I? I mean, she's the one that's going through this, but I had to learn that, no, you have to be honest in your relationship. So if it's something from her past is hurting you, be honest, talk about that. Like, I get why you're like this, but this hurts me when you do that. And it helps the relationship too, instead of just suppressing and denying how you feel, trying to keep the peace. No, that's not the way God wants. God wants transparency. God wants open communication.
Absolutely.
So that's something
I can see where that would come in, like, she's been the one hurt, so what I'm going through is not as important.
Yeah, I minimized anything, like, I'm not going to say nothing or whatever.
Yeah.
It's just,
Wow.
but no, it's both of you guys working on it together. And if you're denying your feelings, you're not working on it together.
That's right.
One person saying is being quelched and the other person's being lifted up. So that's something
right.
that was eye-opening to me.
Well, this is a couple of things I want to add to that is that, when you are abused, it seems a lot of times that after you come out of that and you go into a healthy relationship, or what I would say normal marriage struggles, and an abused person will add to that, like, adding fuel to the fire or whatever.
Yeah.
And it magnifies and it's much bigger.
I like that, yeah.
I want to put this out there. Just because this happened to you doesn't mean that that's who you are and that it has to dictate your future.
Yeah.
Ooh, I like that. That's true.
Because a lot of people will stay in that as a Christian and they will struggle in their marriage for 50 years and still not happy.
Yes.
You know? And I want to encourage you that you need to lean into your own healing and ask the Lord to heal you from the inside out.
Yeah.
Take a look in the mirror and say, God, I'm not going to let 17 years of my life dictate the rest of my life.
Yes.
Absolutely.
You have many, many years ahead of you. My husband and I have been married 31 years.
Wow.
And my abuse happened for 2 years, but that 2 years had the potential to dictate my future.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
because I had this big sign on my head that says, hey, I'm a target. In the spirit realm, I really was, because I was so wounded.
Wow.
And just my feelings were out there, and I just left it open. But when I came to the Lord, I told God, I said, God, I'm here for real.
Yeah.
I like that.
I mean, I really wanted a change. And I said, whatever you want to do in me, do it.
Wow.
And I let the Lord be my Superman and my everything. And I let my husband be my partner.
Yeah.
I
be
like
your
that.
partner.
Yes.
Well, that's the key.
So my husband can't always be my Superman. Sometimes he can.
Yeah.
You know? And
Yeah.
sometimes he can be exactly what I need. But what about when he can't be?
Yeah.
What about when he's having a bad day?
Sure.
And the thing is, with God, he never has a bad day.
Wow.
I like that.
You know?
That
and
is so
so
true.
we have to make him our everything and then make our spouse just our partner.
Yeah.
My friend, I want to do life
I
with
like
you.
that.
We're one.
Yeah.
We're going through this together.
Yes, we're
Yeah.
going through
we're
it
not
together.
at odds. We're one going through the
Yes.
same one road.
And practice kindness, practice
Oh, yeah.
humility
Yeah.
and love and, you know, saying good things to each other
Oh,
because
yeah.
it's so easy to want to call each other names, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
To add to that, what I learned help with that, like being kind to each other, is praying for one another.
Yeah.
Even in private, especially in private, because no one's provoking you to do it.
Yeah.
So when you take it, you make it your choice to pray for your wife, especially when you're upset with her. There is healing that happens when that happens because you're forcing yourself to view her the way God views her, not how you, the angry husband, is, or how the world is telling you to see her, or how justified you think. Doesn't matter. In God's court, you got to view them as God sees them, and it gives you that godly perspective at that point, that more eternal perspective. So praying for your spouse that you don't want to pray for is the best time to pray for.
well, Jesus said, pray for your enemies too.
Yes.
Pray
Yeah,
for those
exactly.
that
You're gonna-
despitefully use you and do you wrong.
You're gonna feel like your enemy sometimes,
Yeah,
and that's
that's
when you
right.
pray.
That's
I like
right.
that.
That's
Absolutely.
right. Well, gosh, I thank you guys so much. Thank you for
Thank
coming and
you.
being a part of this. And we just pray God's blessings upon you.
Thank
and
you.
Thank you.
that your story will reach many, many people. And I look forward to the good reports that we
Yes.
get from this.
Praise God. Yeah.
Amen.
I look forward to it too.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you, guys. Thanks for joining us for One Voice. And hope you've been ministered to today. And I just want you to know I love you. And I look forward to meeting with you again next week.
Yeah.
All right. Bye.
Thank you for listening to One Voice Makes a Difference. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider subscribing and reviewing the show on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. Tell your friends about One Voice too. Your voice helps the show reach more people to spread the gospel. Together, with all of our voices, we can come out of the darkness and into the light. If you'd like to hear more about Janet's personal story, you can purchase her book, One Voice, on her website, janetswanson.org. You can also connect with her on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or YouTube. Most importantly, if you are in crisis, please call the 24/7 crisis hotline at 1-800-273-8255 or visit suicidepreventionlifeline.org. Don't wait. Your life matters.